Welcome to the Hockey Writers Maple Leafs Lounge, a weekly show from our Toronto Maple Leafs writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the blue and white. Come on in and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside the Maple Leafs Lounge, where it's always rainbows and unicorns and fairy dust and all the good things, but not today. Today, we are recording just hours after a 7-1 embarrassing loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who not only a 7-1 loss, Pittsburgh was playing 5 guys that were supposed to be in the AHL. This was terrible. There is no good thing to come out of this. So we're going to have to try to lay some groundwork on this, guys. No piling on, because it's pretty easy at this point. So let's try to be constructive. That's what the lounge is all about. It's me, Kevin Armstrong, joined as always. I think I'm Kevin still. I don't know what's going on after I watched last night, but I'm joined as always by my colleagues and buddies, Peter Baracchini and Alex Hobson. And we promised the first word to Alex. We don't know if he's broken his silence yet, but Alex, why don't you kick it off with thoughts of that 7-1 loss?
It was just embarrassing. There's really nothing else to say about it. I mean, you know, I think being Leaf fans, we all kind of had that thought in the back of our mind that, you know, the Leafs never miss an opportunity to lose an embarrassing game that they should win. And I feel like heading into last night's game and seeing how depleted their lineup was and seeing how all the odds were heavily stacked in their favor, I think we all had the feeling that they would come out with an effort like this. But I don't think any of us could have predicted that they would get steamrolled by the lineup that Pittsburgh threw out there yesterday. So nobody clicked. The offense was horrible. The defense was horrible, and the goaltending was horrible. And I honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that I could say that I haven't already said on social media or said to friends or said in general since last night's game happened. But what I'll leave it with is they better not roll out that same lineup and just expect the guys to figure it out themselves on Monday against Carolina, because whether it's a benching or a lineup change or something, Keefe's got to do something to send a message that the efforts like that aren't acceptable. Because I don't know if you throw the same lineup out there that we saw on Sunday and Saturday nights, then I don't know what they're accomplishing. So I don't really have too much else to say right now. I'm sure if you poke away at me a little more, you'll probably get me to say some more things, but for now I'm going to leave it there.
And we do have our producer standing by, Matthew standing by to hit the censor button. But Alex, we're glad that you're talking again. It's nice to hear your voice. Peter, Alex obviously hit on a lot of key points there, but let's just get your thoughts. Peter's not talking either.
I tweeted this out. No, I'm just stumbling over because I'm still baffled by what we witnessed yesterday. I mean, Alex touched up on the lineup. I mean, when they're out, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Jeff Carter, Brian Russ, 5 essential players to your roster, and you have that kind of performance. I mean, what else can you say? Embarrassing. Like, I mean, Alex mentioned that before, but like that's the perfect word to sum this all up. And I tweeted this out yesterday during the games. Like, aren't the Maple Leafs sick and tired of having these kind of performances? And then every single time they have this, the bad habits keep coming back in. Everything that we saw last night was what we saw towards the tail end of last season. But I mean, albeit the power play has been struggling nonstop with that top unit. But the defensive turnovers, the positioning, the awareness, the inability to have any fights, energy, consistency, whatever, it was gone. And this happens multiple times a season where we think that, okay, you know what, this is just a one-off, it's going to be fine. This has happened for the past 3 or 4 years. And Jake Muzzin said something that, you know, we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to be tough. We didn't pass the test. This team hasn't passed the test for the last 3 years. because they keep failing and haven't learned anything that they've done. And that to me is just really disappointing, that a roster with this much talent, a roster with this much experience, despite Matthews, Marner, and Nylander still being young, they're veterans in this league already. They've had 5+ years. They know what's to be expected. They know that they got to come out flying, and they know they got to be better. Enough about feeling sorry for yourself right now, because now's the time to act and make sure that you mean business, because we're just not seeing it.
All right. So things actually got worse after that 7-1 loss, and you touched on it there, Peter. But the post game, I had to pick my job off the ground, because Mitch Marner, the first words that fell out of his mouth when he was asked if he was concerned about this performance, he said, "I don't think we can be concerned." It actually hurts. It hit the ground so hard. If you're not concerned about a 7-1 thrashing against any team, you should be concerned about a 7-1 thrashing against a team that was made up of a lot of the call-ups. And if anything, you should be saying, we're going to do better. You know, all the things, I know what you're saying about Muzzin, but at least he took some accountability, said it's time to go back to the drawing board. It's not working here. But Marner, who is already public enemy number one, says, I don't think we can be concerned. And, he also went on, here's the quote, "We're still early in the season. Obviously, it's not what we wanted, but day off tomorrow in Carolina, fresh page. 2-1 loss, 3-2 loss. No, this was 7-1. This is no day off. If I was Keefe and I told the guys day off tomorrow, I'd be saying, everybody back out on the ice. We're bag skating until the flight." And this is ridiculous. And I was super disappointed. I've been disappointed in Marner, but I could not get over that comment. So there's mine. But let's try to be productive, guys. Where do we go from here? And I don't want this. It's early. I know lots of people are talking about that. A lot of positive people that are trying to put the spin on that. Anyone that's angry at the team right now, well, it's early. It's early. No, this is actually a carryover, and things are not looking good. So where do we go from here? Alex, let's start with you.
Just to kind of add on to what I said before, I mean, I think there's not really much that you can do between that game and tomorrow to really make much of an instant fix. But I think if anything, Keefe just has to try something else. He has to split up that top line, because Matthews and Marner are not doing anything together right now. It's at the point where it's painful watching them up there on the ice, which I never thought I'd hear myself say, because you've got who should be two of the most dynamic stars in the league playing on a line together. But when they're both off, it's just, they aren't generating anything. And it just seems like they're trying the same tricks over and over and over, and to no avail. The teams seem to have figured them out, and they don't seem to be interested in trying to figure out another way to get the puck in the net. And so I think that's somewhere to start. You got to make some lineup changes. I think Keefe's also got to split up the pairing of Muzzin and Hall. I've got a takeaways piece that'll be out by the time this video is uploaded, and that was one of my takeaways. The Muzzin and Hall pairing yesterday was just tremendously awful. And like I said, at the very least, you got to try something else, because he went with the exact same lineup on Friday night against San Jose, the exact same lineup on Saturday night against Pittsburgh, and this is the same lineup they had against the Rangers on Monday. And if you keep sending that same lineup out there and nothing's working, I don't know what you expect to happen. So obviously I doubt that there's going to be any sort of big trade or firing or anything like that, because, as much as people do say we're only 6 games into the season, and as much as I disagree with that take, like you said, Kevin, this is a carryover from last year, a carryover from the last 3 years. But I think, if I'm looking at it from a managerial standpoint, I don't think anyone's going to get canned or traded after that 1 game, 6 games into the season. But if you're going to do anything right now, you got to try something new. You got to experiment with the lines, try some different combinations, do something to show your guys that efforts like that aren't acceptable. And you gotta, and I mean, the odds once again tomorrow are going to be worth keeping an eye on because they're going to be facing Freddie Anderson likely in Carolina. And, that's another Leafs story waiting to happen. So I don't know. I just want to see something new because what we've seen over the past couple games hasn't worked and they look aimless out there.
Peter, we're hearing what Alex is saying with different combinations, but is it to a point where you're looking at the Marlies to this point? You call up some players that, are going to work really hard. Sure, they don't have the natural born skill that we see in some of the players on the ice right now, but they're being outworked. You need workers out there that show up. Is there any thought about that at this point?
I do. I mean, it's always possible that they could call somebody up, but I think at some point you're going to also have to look at someone like Pierre Engvall, who is probably not waiver exempt anymore. And if you put him on, someone's going to pick him up, and you could probably use him in a trade. I mean, I was having a bit of a discussion in regards to the poll that you posted, fire or trade, and someone mentioned Kerfoot Derby trade, and it's very possible because those two names have been floating around for some time. It's possible Pierre Engvall's name could be used in a deal, but if you are looking to bring somebody up, I don't see anybody worth calling up at this point from the Marlies except for two players, and that's Kirill Semyonov and Josh Hosang, who have been extremely dynamic for the Marlies early on in their season. Is that going to be an answer right away? I do not think so at all. This is more on the players than trying to find and reignite something from a call-up. It goes deeper than that. I do think that Alex said you got to switch up the lines, and I think I've noticed this quite a bit after the New York Rangers game where they absolutely dominated them, the game against the Sharks and the game against the Penguins. They just don't have the same energy. They're not battling for pucks like they should. I mean, a couple of times I've seen Marner going on a forecheck, evades a hit, and just light swing of the stick, and that's it. And then the puck's out of the zone. Him and a bunch of other players have got to do more to establish a forecheck and be more aggressive because they're just being walked all over. They're being taken advantage of, and there's just no urgency. There's no energy. There's nothing going for them right now. It's on them to change the way that they play. And until that happens, we're just going to expect the same result. And it's very disappointing because we shouldn't be having this conversation 6 games into a season. I mean, if they had 5 or 6 straight games like they did against the New York Rangers, where they're doing everything they can, fine, whatever. I think we could take a seat back. But right now, this is a cause for concern. I don't understand how you can look at it any other way.
I'm going to butt in real quick here just to add on to that, Peter, and say that the way that the Leafs have looked in these, specifically last night and the night before, but just in general, it reminds me a lot of the way that they looked right before Mike Babcock was fired in 2019. We're seeing a team that doesn't seem to have any confidence or any identity or any purpose out there on the ice. And it's not something I would have wanted to see from this team at this stage, but here we are. So what is the next step here?
And Keith did mention about trying to find that identity. We're still finding that with this team. Other teams have already established that. We haven't.
Mike Babcock was actually trending on Twitter earlier today, and that's because of exactly what you were saying, Alex, with the comparisons, because watching that game, you couldn't help but feel that same way, and just wondering, okay, when's the shoe gonna fall here? Because there's bigger issues at play. Anybody listening to Keith, he's been saying the same thing. Every conference he has, he says the same thing. Yet the biggest takeaway I hear from Keith right now is dirty goals. He wants dirty goals. They actually sent Jack Campbell home earlier this week because it was going to be such a nasty practice on goaltenders. They were going to be taking shots from everywhere. They're going to be in the crease. They're going to be loading up. And what did you see last night? Nice, clean looks, nice, clean shots. Goalie had no problems. And I'm yelling at the screen, dirty goals. Where is everybody? Get in front of this guy, shoot the puck in low, looking for rebounds, start scrambling. No, we're looking for these beauty highlight reel shots every time. And it's unbelievable. 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 Okay.
And that's the main thing too. I think they just need to simplify things instead of going to that beautiful play. I mean, it's not working. It's not working on the power play. It's not working 5-on-5. And I think we kind of got a glimpse early on of what this game was going to, or how it was going to unfold when John Tavares was stopped point blank, and then Austin Matthews on the rebound. As soon as that shot, and Austin Matthews never misses that. 10 times out of 10, that's going in the net, or 9 times out of 10, that's going in the net. And after that point, you knew how this was going to fold, and it was not going to end well.
Yeah. So this is the Maple Leafs Lounge, brought to you by the Hockey Writers, where it's always happy days. Yeah. We're trying, everybody. So let's, we've referenced it a couple times last night after the second period. The tweet was put out on the Maple Leafs Lounge. Please give us a follow at Maple Leafs THW. And it was asking what's most likely to happen first, a firing or a trade. And right now it is at about 63% for a trade and 37% for a firing. So a lot of people did respond similar to what we've been talking about, that, the whole line, it's early in the season for a firing. I don't see this as a Keefe problem. That's, when we talked about Babcock, that's what you'd say, the coach has got to go. There's something wrong because this team's not performing. This is not a Keefe problem in my eyes. I don't see this as a Keefe problem at this point. I see this as a bunch of players that are not doing anything that is said to do, at least the top six. The bottom six, look at Jason Spezza. The guy has 25% of the goals for this team. He's the fourth line center, and he's 38 years old. He's on a league minimum. Guess why he's scoring? Because he's doing what Keefe says. He's getting in front of the net. He's scrapping for the goals. All those goals have been directly in front of the net, and he's been grinding for them. Why isn't the top six listening? I don't know. And so that's why I would say this isn't a firing. I would agree with the majority that says this is a trade. And I think it's got to be a significant trade. And the reason why, yeah, sure, it's 6 games in, but this is the carryover. The core four are still defeated. The big time players that were still there and still know that Montreal loss, they're not over it. Like, let's be clear. They're not over it. And it is very much crept into their psyche. Maybe they were over it when they first came into camp, but after those games where they really faced some difficult goaltending, you had to have that creep back in of, we can't score. Remember, this was a team that was shut out in game 7, but they can't score. It's creeping back in. And as much as I've defended Mitch Marner lately, I don't even know what you could get for him at this point, because he doesn't look like a $10 or $11 million player, that's for sure. But I'm thinking that it's getting to that point. Guys, where are you at with the trade scenarios? I'm thinking you're both more of a trade than a firing at this point, but correct me if I'm wrong. But where are you with a trade scenario? Alex, let's start with you.
Definitely, obviously on the same page as you. I think it's going to be a trade before it's going to be a firing. I honestly don't know where to go from here, because I do agree with you that I think it's going to be it has to be a significant trade, or at least something that moves the needle and kind of sends a message to the guys that says, listen, like, just because you're here, it doesn't mean you're protected. If you're not holding up your end of the bargain, then we don't have a place for you here. And I think it's got to be something along the lines of that. And I remember saying during last night's game, the fact that, like, even when Spezza tied the game, I remember just thinking that, like, the Leafs don't deserve to win this for the sole reason that they've got all these stars in the world, all these guys that are getting paid like premier stars in the NHL. And they're relying on the 38-year-old veteran making league minimum to provide all their offense. And, I don't care how many chances you're getting. I don't care what your expected goals percentage is. I don't care what your possession rating is. If you're relying on a 38-year-old veteran making league minimum for all your scoring, when you've got a team with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, the list goes on, then you're lost. I don't know what else to say. Like, you can't be relying on your league minimum guys and your veterans to do everything for you. And that's what it's been so far this year. And again, to bring up the point of, yeah, it's only 6 games or whatever, like, I'm sorry, but when you're playing in the media hotbed that is Toronto when it comes to hockey, if you are a star player and you're getting paid like a Mitch Marner or an Austin Matthews or a John Tavares, and you are on a drought for the entire season to start, and I know Johnny T has a goal now, but 6 games in and you haven't even moved the needle offensively for your team, I'm sorry, but there's something's got to give here. And I don't know if the Leafs are I don't know if the Leafs are going to entertain a trade like that for someone like Marner at this stage, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll leave it at that. I really don't. I think it's got to be a trade, but I don't know how big of a trade it's going to be. I'm kind of out of answers.
Peter, you got any answers?
I do think that if you do need a massive shakeup, you got to move someone like a Mitch Marner. I mean, there's no other way around it. Matthews has had his looks at least. Not just no luck. I mean, yeah, it's disappointing that he's not scoring, but he's at least getting his looks and he's at least getting his chances. Mitch Marner, on the other hand, 1 point in 6 games, that doesn't really cut it for me, considering the fact that he is. Sorry,
I was just going to say his 1 point was a secondary assist that he got while he was sitting on the bench. I'll just throw that out there. So it's not even like he really contributed to the play, but.
Exactly. And that's what's really concerning, because you've seen flashes, but you haven't seen him be a difference maker. You haven't seen him change the tides of the game. And to me, if you're going to be that star player, like you said, and you're making that kind of money, we deserve more from you. So I don't think that you're going to trade Mitch Marner mid-season right now or at the very beginning. If you do, it's probably going to be during the offseason where you have time to evaluate everything and analyze where you want to go from here and what assets you could get in return for him. Because if you're looking to trade for Mitch Marner right now, I mean, given the fact that what he was in the past, if I'm Kyle Dubas, you're looking at least maybe a first, second, a roster player, and a top prospect in exchange for Mitch Marner. I think that's going to be the going rate for any star-studded player. But then again, he's not playing the way that he's up to. Teams may try and lowball him, but that's to be expected. If there is a trade, I do think they are going to shake up someone maybe in their bottom 6 to try and give more leeway to the top 6 players and say, hey, we're moving someone out of our team, someone that you're probably close to, like maybe an Alexander Kerfoot, maybe a Travis Dermott. If this doesn't get you to change your mind and, get you into shape and get you into the game mentality, then more changes are going to come. So I think it's going to be a bit of a mid-level kind of deal than a major one. But until that happens, I guess, we'll just wait and see, because they do need a shakeup. You've already fired Babcock last year. You already gave the benefit out of the players. Now you got to go and look at the roster. Who can I bring in? Who can I try and get a fire going under this team? And then if nothing else works, then you go to your star players and be like, okay, one of you is gone.
So the production's not there, but it's also the minus ratio that we're seeing too. That's concerning when you're talking with star players, that both Austin and Mitch are -2, -3s. The defensive center that was brought in is a -5 right now, and David Kampf. Nothing is going right at this point. I hear what you're saying, to try to get rid of one of those bottom 6 guys to do the shakeup, but as I don't know if you can put a lot of the blame on the bottom 6 at this point. It's a debacle, and that's why I'm thinking a bigger trade would be needed, because you need some pieces at this point, and in order to do that, you're going to need to clear a significant contract. That's why I was leaning that way more, but I think what we've hit on here is this is way more than coaching, skills, players. This is the mentality. And long time ago, guys, we were talking about player psyche and the psychology coaches that a lot of players utilize right now. And I was talking to Trevor Moawad, author of this book. He was It Takes What It Takes. Amazing book. Go read it. And he was actually called the best sports psychology brain out there. I was trying to line him up for an interview. Unfortunately, he recently passed away with cancer, but there's a lot in that book that you can take away. And it's a lot of what I see with the Leafs right now, that they've beat themselves. He has examples in here of players that were really down and out that he worked with and brought back around. And to me, they've beat themselves on a bigger scale. Like last night, right after 3-1, there was a timeout called. They should have been able to regroup. It was still really early in the second period. Sure, they let in 2 goals in 15 seconds. They were getting outplayed by an AHL team, but there was still plenty of time to turn it around. That to me showed that they were beat before. And that's the bigger problem. When you're not seeing, you watch these other games right now and you see guys step on the ice like the McDavids, the McKinnons, these guys that step on the ice and they make a difference. It doesn't matter if it's a hit. It doesn't matter if it's a nice defensive play. They make a difference on the ice. There's none of that. I'm not seeing any difference. And that to me is a psychology thing, because we know these players are good. We've seen them be good, but they're not there mentally is my concern. And I don't know how you fix that. I'm sure the Leafs have got some psychology coaches around there, but it seems to me that there's a mental aspect here that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, fully. I mean, we all heard Paul McLean's quote from All or Nothing when he was like, there's demons in their beds, there's demons in their heads, that there's demons just everywhere. Everywhere they look, there's a demon. And that's carried over to this season. That's where they are right now. It all comes back to not being mentally there. And again, it's like you said, Kevin, it's one of those things that it's like, how do you fix that? Sure, you can set them up with a sports psychologist. I'm sure the Leafs have considered something like that already. But if the puck drops and all of a sudden it's time to go out there and make a difference, and your guys are still in their own heads and can't figure it out on the ice, then what's the point of it all? So I don't know how you fix something like that. I mean, that's why I said ahead of tomorrow, there's obviously not much to do in between that game and tomorrow's game against Carolina. But I mean, you may as well just try and do something at the very least to send a message, whether it's benching a player or shaking up the top line. I don't know. You got to do something in the meantime, and then maybe use the next couple of weeks to plan a bigger picture thing in order to do a true shakeup. But I don't know. It's tough because the Leafs are back in the Atlantic Division this year, and the teams that they're going up against are not going to wait around for them. They don't have a reserve spot in the top 3, like some people seem to think. Like the Leafs, Andrew Forbes, guy that's been on the Maple Leafs Lounge before, he wrote an article before the season started saying that it's possible the Maple Leafs can miss the playoffs. And if they keep playing like that, who's to say they won't? So yeah. I don't know. I think the Leafs they got to stop at this hole. It's early. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll figure this out, because this isn't a new issue. These are the same issues that they've been battling for the past 3 years. And, you can go back to the drawing board and you can give these complacent quotes to the media all you want. But I mean, it's time to get something done.
Peter, any words on the mentality of the team right now? You've been talking about this has been 3 years coming, and it seems to be not improving. So any words on the mentality?
It's just disappointing to see that for these past 3 years, I've never seen a team like the Maple Leafs when the tough gets going and they face a lot of adversity and there's no fight back, that they just throw in the towel. I mean, and not to say that they're not trying, but let's face it, in these games where they face a massive amount or a massive hill to climb, they're a deer in a headlight. They freeze, they balk, they have nothing going for them, and they just pack it in right away. And that to me is the biggest thing, where all these teams, like the Montreal Canadiens, they weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. They weren't even supposed to get past the first round. And look what happened. They faced adversity and they clawed their way back with a gritty game after game after game and made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, yeah, they're having a poor season right now, but that's what teams do. If you have players with that kind of mentality, that should be your main focus. And that mentality for the players right now is not present at all. It's not present in Muzzin. It's not present in Matthews. It's not present in Marner. It is frustrating because, like you said, and like Alex has said too, we know how good these players are. Marner was a 90-point guy. Matthews won the Rocket and was up on pace for like 50 goals the past 2 seasons. These are good players. It's just they're their own worst enemy right now, and that needs to change. Like and again, I don't know how you can fix that. Yeah, you can seek out, those team psychologists to help out with situations like this. It's always possible that they could always turn things around. I mean, you always want to see them, or you want to have a positive attitude. You want them to bounce back and win against Carolina. But with this team right now, they struggle with adversity after adversity after adversity, and nothing seems to happen until maybe a few games down the line. And even then, that may be a little bit too late. I want them to succeed, but that mentality has got to change, and they got to start with their attitude and their presence on the ice and play like they mean it. Because to me right now, the last 2 games, it's just not there.
This is the Maple Leafs Lounge, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Make sure to follow us on all your favorite social media channels and head on over to thehockeywriters.com for more information and more stories about your favorite team to love, and a lot of hate coming at it right now. So I don't think we need to get into too many of the comments because they're kind of similar to what we've been talking about. Everyone's looking for answers at this point, but there are some people, and I will say, they're right. We're armchair quarterbacks, all of us. If we're not on the ice or on that bench, we're armchair quarterbacks. Everything that we're saying, Keefe has already seen, or the video guy has already seen. They know what's going on out there. The players know that they're not scoring. So I guess with that, this is why it's professional sports, because they're being paid, so then they get criticized. And that's how the whole give and take works when it comes to professional sports. So I guess we'll leave it with final comments on those that are, defending the team. And I get defending the team. That's what we try. We don't defend, but we try to have a critical eye to both sides. But to those that are saying that we're piling on and that we're armchair quarterbacking, Peter, what are your comments to that?
I mean, we're just seeing it, what we're seeing. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, it's we're watching the same game. We're all seeing the same thing unfold. It is what it is. The only solution to this right now is the players themselves. They have to figure out what to do, whether it's, having a closed door meeting and just airing out grievances or airing something out of like what needs to happen, what needs to get done, how can we get back on track. It seems like usually when those kind of things happen, positive things happen afterwards, and they tend to go, or teams tend to go on a stretch. I say just still stay positive, but at the same time, it's really hard to, considering what we saw. Yeah, they're going to say, oh, it's only 6 games, but at the same time, it's 6 games, but we've seen this time and time again. I just hope that they can get it figured out quick, because this is a very talented team. This is a team that can do a lot of damage, but at the moment they're not. And I think the players need to come together and realize that, and they themselves need to change how they're playing.
Alex, final words?
To the people who are not concerned right now and do say it's game 6, doesn't matter, I will say I respect you and I commend you for seeing the positives, I guess. And, I'm sure you're a lot happier than we are right now, but I will say, don't try to tell other fans how to feel about this team, because this team has done nothing for us in the past couple of years. I mean, sure, we've gotten great regular season performances. I know we've gotten I was gonna try and list something else off there, but that's pretty much all we've gotten from these guys in the past 3 years. So I don't blame anybody else for, as Kyle Dubas said, having their patience wear thin on these guys. We need to see results soon. because you know, if you've got 5 straight years of first round exits creeping behind you, and you're kind of dragging them around like an anchor, and to abandon that, you need to have success, not only in the playoffs, but just as a team in general. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, all these fans who said the regular season doesn't matter all seem to care right now. And it's like, the Leafs can't really redeem themselves until the playoffs by winning a round, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to see any sort of progress from them during the regular season. And right now it's looking like the opposite of progress. So I hope Sheldon Keefe is a plan, because the result that when the effort that we saw against Pittsburgh last night was just the definition of pathetic.
Well, we'll leave it on that note. We tried our best to bring this around, but like Peter said, we're calling it as we see it at this point, and it's difficult. We hope that we are here a week from now, eating all these words and having a nice party and seeing a totally new team. I don't know how that is going to happen, but it's anything can happen in this NHL. We know that, and there is skill on this team. They do have a good coach. Things can turn around here. So let's leave it at that. We're hoping for the best, but we're still calling it as we see it. This is the Maple Leafs Lounge. We'll see you next week.